Hey guys, this is the video reviewing what we did in class yesterday and what I expect you to be able to do for the final. Alright, so first, this is what we did in class on Tuesday. We went over the horizontal scales, which are ways of playing a scale along an individual string. So all the notes that you play are on one string. For guitar, it is extremely important when you play chords to know what the notes are along the low E and the A string. So the 6th and 5th strings, it's especially important that you know the names of those notes and you can find them really easily. So there's a couple tricks we can use for that. But first we need to know that the note that is on the double dotted fret is going to be the same note as your open string. So for example, the 6th string is E, the double dotted fret is the same note E, just up one octave higher. Same thing with the 5th string, and so on, same note. So what that means is when we play our scales up along the string, we only have to go up until a double dot fret, because after that the pattern just repeats. You would just do whatever you did on the, so if the double dot fret's the 12th fret, on the 13th fret that will be the same note as the 1st fret, and etc. You just keep going up like that. So that's the first part. The second part is we have these visual dot patterns along our guitars that allow us to help us keep track of the position that we're in, or where or what note we're playing. And that's really important because if the dots weren't there, all the frets would look exactly the same and it would be hard to find specifically what we're looking for. I've played on a couple guitars that didn't have any dots, and it was difficult to find everything I was doing, so we definitely take these dots for granted. So most guitars have a dot on the 3rd, 5th, 7th, and 9th frets, and then 2 dots on the 12th fret. And sometimes they'll have dots even further up. But the reason I mention that is because some guitars don't have a dot on their 3rd fret. But what I'm going to tell you now requires, or assumes that your guitar does. So, because that will help with this. So if your guitar doesn't have a dot on the 3rd fret, pretend for right now that it does, and that we get the rule from that the lowest 3 dot frets, so the 3rd, 5th, and 7th frets, those are all natural notes. Okay, and then after that 3rd dot fret, which would be on the 7th fret, we switch over and our natural notes are now on the, what I call space frets. So we go from the 7th fret to the 8th fret, which is a space fret, as in it's a space between the dot frets, and then the pattern continues of skipping a fret. So we go 8th fret, 10th fret, 12th fret, or as I like to say, space, space, space. Now even though this 12th double dot fret isn't technically a space fret because it's got dots on it, it follows the same pattern and it makes it easy to say the pattern dot, 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 space, space, space. So that's the thing that can help you keep track of where these are. And so the nice thing is that this pattern is the same for the low E and the A strings. So what that means for us on the E strings, we can find natural notes on dot, 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 space, space, space frets, and same thing on the A string, dot, 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 space, space, space. Those will all be natural notes. Okay, and what differs between these two strings is what we have going on below the 3rd fret, below our 1st dot fret. On the low E string, we have our note F, which is on the 1st fret, and then so we go, E, F, G. Those are our lowest 3 natural notes, and then we have A, B, and C. So on the A string, our natural note is on the 2nd fret instead of the 1st fret. So let's go, now that we know where these notes are, let's take a look at what the notes are. So in the low E string, we've got E, F, G, A, B, C, D, and then E again. So hopefully you can see my dots on that and as those line up. But again, just as a review, we know that from playing in our position here, our open position, our lowest 3 notes are E, F, and G. That's no big deal. And then as we go up from G, we just have to remember a couple things. One is that B and C are right next to each other. There's no note in between them. There's no B sharp that's in between B and C. And likewise, there's no note in between E and F, right? Same thing, there's no E sharp or F flat that's in between E and F. Although, just as a reminder, those notes do exist technically, E sharp and F flat and B sharp and C flat. But as we recall, E to F is they're just 1 fret apart, and B to C are just 1 fret apart. So we go E, F, G, and then we just continue the pattern going up. G skips a note, so we go to A, that's our next dot fret. A goes to B, that's our next dot fret. And then B goes to C, just right next to each other, and that's our first space fret. So then C to D, we skip a fret because there's a note in between them, and then so it's another space fret, and then D to E, we skip another note. So again, that's E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. Okay, then we can do the same thing on our A string, where we have now, we'll just follow that same process. We've got A, B, and C as our lowest 3 notes, and so from our lowest dot fret here on the 3rd fret, this is the note C, so we'll continue the pattern up. We've got C dot fret, D dot fret, E dot fret, then E switches over to F, they're right next to each other, we go to the space frets at this point. F, G, A, space, 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 F, G, A, those are all those space frets. So additionally then we added our accidentals in between those. So remember, it's really important that you know where your natural notes are on the guitar, because your natural notes basically look and feel the same as our accidentals. So we have to know where they are before we can insert the accidentals in between them. So once we have this dot, 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 space, space, space pattern in our minds, we just plug those holes with our accidentals. And again, when we go up the scale, we'll use the sharp names, and when we go down the scale, we'll use the flat names. So we've got E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. We go down the scale, we've got E, E flat, D, D flat, C, B, B flat, A flat, G, G flat, F, E. Alright, and then on the A string, same thing, we'll go up with the sharps and down with the flats. So A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. Down the scale, the same thing. A flat, G, G flat, F, E flat, D, D flat, C, B flat, A. I'll see you guys on the 24th of October, I believe.